Hey, cutie pies. This is Lanikia, and I'm coming to you with another episode of The Good Doctor. This is season 5, episode 11, called The Family. Don't forget, if you're looking for a work from home job, to check out my work from home videos. I will put the link in the description box. All right, so let's just get right into this. Okay, so Andrews is changing. He's changing multiple times because he's nervous. It's his first day as president and everything. Lim is having breakfast, and Glassman is reading the paper. So they get to the hospital. Everyone is gathering around, right? And then Andrew comes out, and he said, "Okay, before that happens, Leah and Sean let everyone know they're canceling their wedding. Like they're giving out invites, telling them we canceled the wedding. They were like, so y'all not getting married? And they were like, nope, we're just gonna live in the moment, and they're happy. So it was like, okay, as long as y'all are happy. So then everyone is gathered around, right? So then Andrews comes out, and he's talking about how this hospital is going to get back to what it was originally about, which is patient care and everything. And Lim is just like, ugh, because it's like and he makes her chief of surgery again, and it's just like he's taking all of the glory. You know what I mean? He's taking all of the glory. On getting back, but he wasn't in the fight until the very last moment. So then we see Andrews wants to speak to Glassman and Morgan, and he lets them know that he is closing the clinic. And they're like, why are you closing the clinic? And he says, because it's bleeding out money. Like they cannot afford to have it. Plus, they lost a major donor because Nira, because of what Morgan did as far as causing her blind and admitting to it and everything. So they lost a major donor, and then on top of that, they need Glassman to do surgery. So then they're like, they're wanting to debate it, and Glassman's like, I'll give you 20 hours. He's wanting to go back and forth, and Andrews, and he's not hearing it. But then they all get an alert. So there was a family of 3 that got into a car wreck, and it's a bad accident. We see that they we see we see that the mom and the dad are really bad. The little girl is still alert and talking. Um, so they're in surgery and everything, and they're like, Lim and Parks are doing surgery on the dad, and they need to amputate, but they don't want to, and Lim can't fix it. So Parks is like, we need to call Andrews because he can reconstruct. And she doesn't want to call him, but eventually she's just like, okay, we ran out of options, we have to call him. So they have to call Andrews and bring him in. um so then we see the little girl, and they tell her, because the mom is also not doing well, so they tell her, go sit with the little girl, like get a social worker there, because the little girl might lose both her parents today, is a great possibility. So they go, so it's Sean and the social worker there with the little girl, Isla. And so he's trying to just tell, because she's asking questions. Kids are curious, so she wants to know, are my parents going to be okay? Are they going to die? And everything that's going on. And y'all know Sean is just giving her, telling her the truth. Yes, there's a great possibility they will die. And he's just giving her all the information. And the social worker is like, maybe we should be alone. She tells Sean that just to leave her and the little girl, and the little girl like, no, I want you to stay. And she told the social worker, but you can leave, because she wants someone who's going to be, brutally honest with her about what's really going on with her parents. And so Jordan tells Sean that the little girl, okay, so then later on we see that the little girl comes up to Sean, and she tells him, they made me a sandwich, but they had pickles on it. And he was like, oh, pickles are should not be on a sandwich and everything. And she asks for something to eat. And Sean says Jordan, and Jordan was like, I'm dealing with your patient that finally passed gas. I'm having to discharge him, so I can't do this. And Sean tells the nurse, help the little girl, find something to eat. So when the little girl leaves, Jordan tells Sean, she obviously, wanted to just be with you. She wants to be around you. And Sean was like, I don't have time for that. And then we see, okay, so Andrews comes in right with the surgery for the man. and he's talking to Lim, and she is not friendly whatsoever. Because she said, he tells her, I would think you would be happy that you're back, chief. And she was like, that's a job that I should have never lost in the first place, or whatever. So then we see that while this is going on, Parks talks to Morgan, because Morgan is trying to like find herself again, because she realized that she had drifted. Even though she's a go-getter, she's like, I don't want to be like just this hardcore go-getter and do anything to climb the ladder. So she is talking to Parks, and he's like, oh, I have this surgery coming up, and you want to sit in on it and everything. And she doesn't even want to sit in on it. She says, no, I have something else to do. And then when she talks to Sean as well, he was like, you're acting weird, because she's on this new Zen Morgan. But anyway, she leaves, and she comes back, with a patient, and she says he needs his heart checked. And the patient tells Parks that she actually plays chess with him, and she's a real nice, and she's volunteering with the elderly people and everything. And so when she talks to Parks later on, they find out that the patient actually really did need heart surgery and everything. And because of her, they were able to find that. And so he tells her, I'm glad you're doing that and everything, but don't lose focus on your goals and your drive and everything. And she was like, last week you were telling me you didn't like that. And he was like, I might have, went a little overboard with it. And she was like, but at the end of the day, she was also like, I don't want to be the type of person that just goes for what I want and doesn't take care of the patient. Like, where's my morals when it comes to that? Hey, cutie. So she decides that he just tells her, you just gotta find the balance. That's all. You just gotta find the balance. And she was like, oh, we'll see. And so then we go back to the surgeries with the family members, and we see that Lim is Lim and Andrews are again in surgery, and she just pretty much tells him, because the mom and the dad are really just crashing and everything. So she just pretty much tells him that you came in at the last minute. Like, you want to act like everything's all good, but you were not with us when it really mattered. You came in at the last minute to try to help, and you only did that because you wanted to take care of self. Like, you did that because you saw the position that you could get, which is the president of the hospital. Like, it wasn't because you were just, so kind hearted or whatever. So she's upset with him. So then he has to go over and help on the mom's surgery, which is what Glassman is working on. And when Andrews goes over and helps on the mom's surgery, he's upset with Glassman, because Glassman's kind of lighting into him. And he's like, if you had done your job before, as far as running the clinic, because Glassman is lighting into him because he wants the clinic. He was like, if you had done your job the way you were supposed to, none of this would have happened in the first place. Like, Ethicare wouldn't have came in. But you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and the hospital was losing money and everything. So, like, don't just put this all off on me. Like, Ethicare came in because you weren't doing what you were supposed to do. So they're all upset with each other, and they're all having a blame fest on each other. So while all this is going on, Sean and the little girl whose parents are, really badly injured, she's growing closer to him and everything. So he takes her to have lunch with Leah. And I do like, at one point when they were doing an MRI on her, that they brought back that old Sean where he would look up and he would try to find something. Now, he ain't find anything. He was like, I don't have an answer. But I like this episode of The Good Doctor, because it's like they're getting back to why we fell in love with The Good Doctor. Because I feel like, even though Salem to me was a good addition for as long as she was, um, it went away from what we loved about The Good Doctor in the first place, which was seeing them work out how they're going to save all these patients and everything. So anyways, Sean takes the little girl to meet with Leah because he was like entertaining her. She talks a lot. And so she's asking Leah, like, so you two are engaged, you're his fiance? And she was like, yes. And she was like, where's your ring? Because the little girl had a ring that her dad gave her as a placeholder. It was one that he made her because he couldn't afford her the sapphire that she wanted. And when she was going to get her MRI, she told Sean to take care of it. And he told her, I promise I won't, lose it or anything. So when she goes to sit down with Leah, she's like, "Where's your ring? You said you're engaged." And she was like, I actually proposed to him." And the little girl was like, "Well, I asked my boyfriend and my last boyfriend out. It didn't work out." And she tells Leah, "So, what was you like? Did you pick the dress?" And she was like, "No." "What about the cake?" She said, "No." "The date?" And she said, "No." She said, "So are y'all engaged or y'all just boyfriend and girlfriend?" And Sean and Leah are like, and Sean is like, we picked a cake. So it was a little cute moment there. So after that, Sean goes on this mission asking like people like, what do you think me and Leah and I are? And they were like, just having a wedding and all that. Um, that's just a symbol. It doesn't mean anything. What matters is you two loving each other and wanting to spend, your lives together and everything. And he told the little girl that, and she was like, yeah, because Parks told him that, and he told the little girl that, and she was like, yeah, that's not what my mom said when I wanted to sell my cross to get money or whatever. And she was like, yeah, it means something, the ring and everything. Unfortunately, the little girl goes into cardiac arrest, and so Sean this whole time has been trying to figure out how to save her without actually having to do surgery on her because she's so young. But it just gets to a point where they have to do the surgery. So he goes into the operating room, and they're like, we need one of the doctors. Unfortunately, the doctors are all working on the mom. Now the dad has finally gotten stable, and everything, but unfortunately they're working on the mom. But before that happens, I'm sorry, let me back up. Before that happens, the dad hadn't gotten stable. They ended up saving his arm, and Andrews Lim got into it about that because he overrode her, because he said we can't let him lose his leg and his arm. That's too much, because she wanted to amputate both, and he was like, no, we can save his arm. I can save his arm. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're overriding me. But I mean, he saved it. And so the man just lost his leg. And because he lost his leg, the little girl, they asked her to go see him. And she said no, she didn't want to see him. So they told Sean, please go and talk to her and find out like why she doesn't want to see him. Because Jordan tried, the social worker, they were like, she doesn't want to talk to anybody but you, Sean. So he goes and he talks to her, and he finds out that the reason why she doesn't want to see him is because she feels guilty, because she said, I was kicking the back of his seat while he was driving. He hates when I do that. She said he missed a game or a recital or something of hers, and so she was mad at him. So she was kicking the back of his seat on purpose, and he told her to stop doing it. She said, but I was being a spoiled brat, I was being selfish, and I just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. So he turned around and he told her to stop. And she said the next thing she remembers is her mom screaming in the accident, and they were at the hospital. So she feels like he's going to blame her for his leg being amputated. So then Sean tells her about his brother, and he says, my brother, his death was my fault. He said, but it was also his fault because he shouldn't have got up on the train. And when he fell in and broke his neck, you know, that was because he made that decision to get up there. And he said, but he let her know that his parents didn't forgive him. And he had also told her earlier about he and Leah had miscarried a baby. So she tells, he makes her feel better about like, it's not your fault. He was like, the airbag not coming out was not your fault. Your dad taking his eyes off the road was not your fault, and they'll still love you. And she tells him, you've had a lot of pain and hurt. Bad things happen to you. And he was like, I've had a lot of great things happen to me as well. And so it makes Sean reflect on all of the good, in his life and everything. So that being said, we go to the surgery, right? So the little girl has went into cardiac arrest. So she's in surgery. But they need they need a surgeon there. And Sean, they tell Sean, they won't be available, like Lim, Andrews, and Glassman won't be available. It's in about it'll take about 20 minutes. And he says she does not have 20 minutes. So Jordan goes down and try to get one of them. Now while she's on her way down, Glassman, Andrews, and Lim are talking, and they're being really snipey with each other. And Andrews just says, "Look, there is not a day that goes by that I don't like. I still have nightmares about that little girl. Salen had nightmares about that little girl as well. He said she promised me that she would do things to fix what was going on. He said, and I had my eyes closed. Because he really did like Salen. He cared for her a lot. And so now they're realizing Andrews has had his heart broken. And he really did think that Salen was going to fix things. Um, and so he kept, I guess he was just waiting on her to make it right. But she never did. And so he was like, I've had, I don't, what happens to that little girl? It haunts me. And then on top of that, you might think that I did this for the position. A tiny part of him probably did, but a large part of him did because he said, this is my home too. I grew up through the ranks at the hospital and everything. And he cares about the hospital and the people in it. And he was like, Andrews and Lim could do great things if they don't kill each other first. And so, and they're just like, okay. And then Jordan comes in and she was like, Sean needs his surgery. And so Andrews looks at Glassman and Lim and they tell him, we got this, you could go. But after he does what he has to do, he could go. And he said, tell Sean to buy me 10 minutes. Tell Sean to buy me 10 minutes and I will come. And so they run and they tell Sean, but then the little girl goes into shock and Jordan says, Sean, you have to do this. You can do it. And so Sean comes down and he performs the procedure. And by the time Andrews get there, he's like, you did a great job, Dr. Murphy. And Sean is like, thank you. So remember that Morgan had a patient come in. Okay, so then we see, before that we see all three, the mom, the dad, and the little girl, and they're having a happy moment or whatever. They're glad they're gonna be okay. We find out from the mom, she says we're gonna be okay. And then so the little girl she thanks Sean and she reaches up to him because she wants a hug, and he gives her a hug. And when he goes out, Morgan says, oh, it's nice being caring or whatever. And he was like, yes, but he doesn't want to do it again. And so then we see that um, Morgan goes to Andrews, excuse me, and she tells Andrews that she knows how they can save the clinic. And he was like, I'm busy. I'm about to go. And she said, I can talk fast and walk. And she tells him, we just performed a surgery on a man that was $100,000 and it was paid for by Medicare. Is it Medicaid when they're older? Is Medicare? I think Medicaid. It's Medicare or Medicaid. I don't know which one. But it was paid for by Medicaid. And she said, Medicare. And she says, that covers the cost of 3 people at the clinic. She said, so we could bring in the elderly people, have those type of people come in, that extra cost for taking care of people who don't have the insurance and the money, so we could keep the clinic open. And he says, that's a great idea, and you've never been short of great ideas. And she says, I know. And she tells him, I'm not ready to run this clinic, and I understand that now. She said, so you need to give it back to Glassman, and he can help. He can mentor her and everything, but one day she's going to be ready to run the clinic. And she says, that's the right move to do, because you're just like me. We're alike. We think about saving the world, They dream big and that kind of thing. So and I guess Glassman is going to get the clinic back and everything. God bless you, mama. So then we see that Sean goes home. Leah goes home, and Sean has a really pretty, he has lights and everything. And he gets down on one, and she's like, what's going on? He gets down one knee, and he made her like a ring. And he told her, to spin the rest of their lives loving each other and everything together. And he said it's just a placeholder, and she was like, it's perfect or whatever. So I guess their engagement is back on, kind of. I'm guessing that was with another engagement proposal. So then we see Andrews is in his office, right, and he's just chilling in his office. Oh, girl. And we see he's just chilling in his office, and Glassman and Lim come in, and Glassman was like, I used to have a bottle of scotch here. And Lim was like, did you drink all my seltzer drinks? He was like, they were nasty. And he said, I think it's one left. They were nasty. And she said, they are refreshing. And so they sit down around the table and they have a drink and they just sigh. They just sigh and everything. And it's just that moment when they're gonna work together. I think they're gonna do this. They're gonna work together. But anyways, I really enjoyed The Good Doctor. It was like getting back to the roots of The Good Doctor, where it was about how do we help this patient instead of more, like, I don't mind the um workings of them dating and all that, but like I don't want that to overtake what the storylines were used to be about, where it was just like, how do we help this patient. That's what I like more than all the different relationship, because it was actually nice that Asher and Jordan weren't together and they didn't have that little dynamic going on. But anyways, guys, that was A Good Doctor. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next Monday for The Good Doctor, a new episode.